why is context so important in generative AI? And the reason is because it's what is going to make your answers better. And so when we think about creating a workflow with generative AI, what we want to do is we want to take data, right? We want to take it in any format. So it can be anything you can think of. And then we're going to chunk it up. We're going to put it into an LLM. We're going to ask it some questions, and we're going to output. And I think that as an operator, so before coming to Avenue Code, I was CIO at Tangerine Bank. I ran digital at Rogers, which is a big telco up in Canada. And I spent many, many years in banking, building payment systems, branch, back office, all kind of that stuff. And whenever technology came, I always was like, where do I start with it? And I think that AI is not going to replace jobs, but tasks. And so I think as technologists, as leaders, as people with a vested interest, I think what you want to think about is, what is that task that I'm able to do and replace? And when you think about it, it's not just the junior tasks, because I hear that a lot, right? It's going to replace a junior developer, a junior product manager. I don't think that's the case. I think what it replaces is repetitive tasks. But you got to be careful with it. And everybody knows this, right? Because it doesn't have the ability to know when it's wrong. And maybe none of us have the ability to know when it's wrong. but this can be brutal, right? Because if we're not careful and we use it in the wrong use cases and we're not watching that bias, then some bad things can happen. And so here are some use cases that we actually are seeing here at Avenue Code, our customers are using and doing that we feel, yeah, that makes sense. So content generation, as long as you've got somebody, overseeing it. So I like to think of like humans are now the AI overlords, not the other way around. We want to make sure that's there. Big data, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then reimagining DevOps. I think, most people say it's about 25 to 30% efficiency gain. We are seeing that. I think a lot of people in the audience are probably seeing that. And you can't walk away from 25% efficiency in a business, not in our economic times. So I think it's super important. This picture shows up a lot, when you look online. What it always just blows my mind about is the fact that it's right across, right? There is not an area anymore where generative AI can't play. And this is where the responsibility of leadership comes in. Whenever you have a picture that has this many options, it can be daunting. You can get lost in the multitude of different things you can do. So, talking it through, there's a ton of wonderful online forums. And what I love about just in general where we are is the conversations about it. So, do you start with maybe user stories? Do you start with generation of code? Test cases, right? Like these are, and a lot of people are doing some really cool things. What we wanted to talk a bit about is basically creating user stories. So when I was at Rogers, I ran both product and development in digital, and I just never had enough good product managers. It wasn't that I didn't have the headcount, but product managers are really tough to find. They take years to really understand the space. And so when I looked at generative AI, it was really one of the first places that I thought about be a great use case. Because if you can take, remember that, what are we doing? We're taking unstructured data, Jira backlog, an Excel spreadsheet, right? Maybe a document that's talking about the strategy of where you want to go. And you can now put it in a model and output like a detailed user story, right? Now, you still need that product manager to oversee what's coming out, but just the sheer writing of that to start with can save some time. So we've got a video, and I'm just not 100% sure how I make it play, but let's see if there it goes. And so what I really encourage us to think about when we think about how that use case works, so I'm just going to kind of step through what you saw there. So what you saw there was an AI, basically a generative AI workflow, where we took a Jira backlog, we put it in, so that gave the context, and then we were able to ask it to generate detailed user stories based on a new requirement. And I think that the thing that kind of makes it, to me, really cool is that it's like, okay, but what can you do next? So great, I got a user story, I give it to the product manager, that's awesome. But I can also ask it questions, like, do I have any tickets open in that subject? I can ask it to create a summary that I'm going to throw into an email and I'm going to send to my colleagues as an update, right? So again, it's this concept that you can ask new questions, different use cases against that data set, and it makes it kind of like evolving. So I really like that one. If I highly encourage, if you're looking at where do I start with this, I personally think it's kind of a safe one. And what we wanted to do in this workshop next is we really wanted to show how it works. And for me, it's always about the why.
Hi, my name is Candace. I was married for 10 years, but unfortunately, my husband suffered from addiction issues. During this time, I learned a lot about health, wellness, and overall healing of the body. I had to leave my husband with my 2 boys in tow. I had to restart my life over again with nothing. But this is when my vision was born. I really wanted to help people become their best. That's when Avenue Code came in. Avenue Code created an app in just 2 weeks that encompassed my vision. I could now have my clients purchase with just the quick click of a button and have it delivered and infused in the comfort of their very own home. But honestly, I am forever grateful to Avenue Code and the support that they've given me. Their designs are absolutely beautiful and encompassed everything that I had envisioned. I can't wait for you all to see it.
So who you just met there is Candace. She is, as she said, a single mom and started her own business. And that business, and I kind of love this, so that business is actually giving IV bags that have very cool restorative health properties. And so what we challenged ourselves with as a give back was, could we build her a site using that whole range of generative AI tools to reach her needs? And it was kind of a cool challenge, and we also gave ourselves a time challenge, which was the 2 weeks. And so where we started with that was applying Gen AI into design. And this is another area that I strongly recommend the audience to look at where you can use generative AI. Because in our own practice, we know how important design is. It's your moment, right? It's your moment with your customer. It's explaining your vision, your product. And it has to be brought with creativity, with compassion, and with design. And so we're not trying to replace a designer. I want to be super clear. But some of the tasks that the designer does can be enhanced. So specifically, the prompts, generative AI, you can now talk through what you're trying to do. You can use natural language to create that UX component. And then once you have the tools generate the UI as a starting point. So again, we're not replacing anything, we're enhancing, we're making it faster. And you know, once you get those designs, then what we can do is we can import them and then generate the code. So it's, again, the process is the process. It's just done on steroids. And the important pieces, like the design, like the creation of the code, that's all still being done. You got to have senior programmers and senior designers, but we're able to do it faster. And if you want, you can just take a look at the website that we built. It is pretty cool that, you know, like I said, it was really done in 2 weeks. And I won't lie, the first probably 3 or 4 days of that 2 weeks was us figuring out what we were going to do and not really doing it. So it was more like a week and a half. But, you know, you can see it in action here. I know I've just got a few more minutes, but the other thing I wanted to touch on is actually about big data. And for me, this is another real game changer that I wanted to share as sort of an education. At the end of the day, when you try and create insights in big data, you're moving data, right? And how you move data is through extract, load, and transform. It's just kind of the nature of the game. And I think that this is one area that generative AI can really support. And I know it's a big part of our practice here at Avenue Code. And the reason, again, is because taking in that data set, you used to have teams of data wranglers, right? And all they did was try and figure out data and figure out how it all flowed together and how it comes in. Well, now you can have a tool that does that discovery and wrangling for you. The fact that it can create the structure, right? That data structure, just based on that ingestion, is really, really powerful. And I love this last one, and I think we'll probably just leave it there. But one of the hardest things to do in an organization is coordinate. And whether you are an international organization with individual entities residing in different countries, or you're simply a large organization that has verticals like marketing, development, you know, a business unit that runs the products, they have to talk to each other. And historically, the challenge has always been, well, marketing needs to, you know, write their requirements in a way that developers can understand them. Developers need to then code in a way that the business people can understand the, you know, the insights that they're being generated. And that's hard. I think that one thing that generative AI can do is it can give you this concept of a global governance and maintain your local autonomy. So your marketing department can keep their taxonomy the way they want. Your developers can keep their taxonomy the way they want, but you can have this concept of an overarching framework that allows everyone to talk to each other without having them to change the way they are. And this is especially powerful when you think about international firms that have, you know, different languages. A CFO, you know, doesn't need to now have one standard financial input for their budgets, because everyone can be different and they can still have that overall governance. So again, just to summarize, we wanted to just give you some food for thought on generative AI, some areas that we are seeing that generative AI is being applied. I encourage you to, talk to myself, our team, to each other. We need to think about this technology. Traditionally, women have been not great at adopting new technology, and we need to change that. You saw the stat that was 100 million users in 2 months. That's insane. And so it's so important that this technology is embraced, that you embrace it. And listen, it's new for everyone. And I encourage you to think of the stories that our panelists just shared with us about learning, about asking questions. Fake it till you make it. Fine, go out there and say, you know what? I'm going to do Gen AI at my company, and here's what I'm going to do. And even if you don't have all the answers, you will. So have courage. The technology is incredible. It's going to open up our world in different ways. And good luck.